Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Lexi, and today I'm back with a story time. I'm going to be telling you guys a story of my childhood haunted home. Now, this is a story I've told you guys before years ago, but because of the program that I used to use, I couldn't save past like 15 minutes, so I had to cut a lot of stuff out. So in this story, I'm going to give you guys more detail, more context, add more stories. Before we even get started, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. My name is Lexi, and we do everything paranormal, spiritual, and more. And if you're into that, I'm going to leave my playlist down below. But let's just get started. So if you've never seen my videos before, just some quick backstory. I have an older brother who was living at this place and he just moved out like a month ago. You guys are gonna see a pattern that when a lot of paranormal stuff was happening, it happened to the both of us. A lot of the stuff that was happening here when he moved in was happening in this childhood home when we were younger. And this is the same brother that I have told you guys before that he had always had bad luck, terrible luck. He's doing better now, but that's the same brother. We have both been told that we both share some kind of evil presence that's attached to us and has been for years. And I believe that we had this attachment from this house. This house is unlike anything we've ever lived in, unlike any energy we've ever felt. This place is truly demonic, like evil. So when we first moved into this apartment, we were all very young. So my brother is older than me, then it's me, then it's my little sister, and it was my mom and my dad. And I had a few friends that lived in this area, and literally the day that we were moving in, all of our friends started telling us that this spot was haunted. And what we kept hearing is that the person that was living there before was an elderly person. He was bound to a wheelchair. He passed away in there. But I mean, we move in anyway, and things are good for a couple years because we were here for years. And we had this family friend, we'll just name this person Rebecca. We had this person that would come over all the time. They were very close to us, like damn near lived with us. Everything was great. And then all of a sudden, there was some kind of tension between Rebecca and my dad. Her and my dad got into this huge blowout fight. He ended up kicking her out. After that, things started getting kind of weird. We all started like fighting with each other. My parents were constantly fighting. They were constantly going through shit. Like it was always something. And then the super weird stuff started to happen. So me and my brother would be in the room at night. Like my sister's a deep sleeper, so it would just be me and my brother. We started hearing stuff. So we would hear noises in the kitchen. It went from like talking, like whispering. Him and I would just stop and we'd be like, is that mom and dad? The way our room was set up, my mom's room was right next door. The hallway was like this. The living room was here, and then the kitchen was on this side. So we would be able to see if my mom came out of her room to go into the living room and into the kitchen. We started hearing like pantry doors opening, shutting. We started hearing dishes moving around. And then it went from like whispering to talking, like talking loud. And it was always like 3 or 4 people, like a good amount of people talking in the kitchen. So that's one of the similarities. When my brother first moved in, one of the things that really scared him, the dishes moving, because he said that it sounded like somebody was like purposely touching them and moving them and slamming them to try to wake him up or to try to mess with him. The other thing that we started hearing a lot was the pantry doors slamming. Like I have a couple of videos where that happens. And then he started hearing talking in here. So that's one of the similar things that happened from that house to where we are now. Then we started hearing doors slamming. We started seeing the lights shutting on and off. There's this one particular time where it was the first time that we saw this. Me and my brother were in the room. It was just him and I. We hear the bathroom door slam. So we walk over there and we see that the light is on. Oh my God, something in my fucking eye. We see that the light is on. So we think that my sister's in there, even though we know she's not there. So we sit there and we wait. And before we even like have the chance to walk over to open the door slams open and the light shuts off on its own. Then stuff started happening in my mom's room, and her room was definitely the worst. Like her room was so heavy. Something must have happened in that room, and you guys will see why I say that. But we would occasionally sleep in her room just because we wanted to hang out with our mom. But every time I slept in there personally, it was always super cold, uncomfortable. You felt super like almost claustrophobic, like just heavy. It just felt horrible in there. And every single time that I slept in there, I'd be woken up in the middle of the night by knocking. I would wake up to knocking at the top. And we were living upstairs and there's no one upstairs, but the knocking would start from the ceiling and it would go all night. Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning to the knocking still being there. And that's another thing that was happening in this place too. In my room, where knocking would start at the ceiling. My brother and I also heard like whispering and talking coming from my mom's room. Like the door would be closed, light would be off, no one would be in there. It would just be me and my brother getting home from school. No one would be there and we'd hear whispering and talking coming from my mom's room. Another one of the creepiest things about this place was the hallway. We had this dark purple curtain that would cover like the entrance of the hallway. And when me and my brother were in our room at night or when we'd be in the living room like during the day, this happened all the time. Me and my brother would be staring at that curtain and faces would start appearing in that curtain as if somebody was in there sticking their face in it, sticking their hands in it. We saw that all the fucking time. So all of this stuff was happening. At this point, me and my brother told my mom and dad about it. They didn't really believe us. The curtain thing was really fucking us up. Like that was really scaring us. And then my sister started to do something that she'd never done before and never did after this. She started to sleepwalk. It happened every single night. And she would either end up in the kitchen, she'd end up in the bathroom, in the living room. Every time she'd end up in one of these places, she would just stand there for hours. And there's a couple times that my mom would walk out into the living room, she'd see her and like would freak out and like push her and like would bring her back to bed, but she would just be standing there for hours. And one particular time, I told this in the last video, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was at the top bunk. My sister was at the bottom bunk. But I wake up, I use the bathroom. I'm in there for not even a full minute, okay? I run in there, I go to the bathroom, I wash my hands, I come back up and slowly start walking up my bunk. I look at my bed and my sister is up on my bunk, passed the fuck out snoring. And I flipped the fuck out. I almost fell off this bed. I'm like, what the fuck? How did she get up there so fast and so quietly? But that scared the shit out of me because what the fuck? So yeah, all of this stuff is happening all at the same time. We're all having little experiences here and there. So again, we tell my mom and dad. They are starting to believe it to an extent, but they, for the most part, are telling us to ignore it, not talk about it. Like that was a big thing. Do not talk about it. Just remember it's a nightmare. We're okay. Just pray. But one of the things that my dad did was get a cat named Dolce, and he told us later in life that he bought her because he knows that cats are good with spirits and like will scare spirits. This is when my brother's sleep paralysis started happening. At this point, I had never had sleep paralysis before. We didn't know what it was, so we didn't understand. But what he would tell us is that he would wake up in the middle of the night being able to see everything and being conscious and awake, but not being able to move and barely being able to breathe. For like 3 months straight, my brother started waking up every night and would just scream bloody murder, would just scream for my mom. And then my mom would have to come in, like console him, comfort him, and then he'd go back to sleep. But this happened for like 3 months straight. This is so mean, but we started making fun of him and like being like, what the fuck? You're just fucking being a little bitch and blah, blah, blah. But again, we didn't understand what he was going through. He didn't really want to like tell us the full extent of the story. And then he started telling us like the real reason why he's been so afraid. He says that when he wakes up and he's able to see everything but not move, he's been seeing shadow people running in the hallway from my mom's room, running like down the hallway into the living room and running back and forth. For whatever reason, they wouldn't come into our room. And then one night, I remember he wakes up and he's screaming louder than ever before, louder than any of the other nights that we had woken up to him screaming. So all of us wake up, we're like, oh my God, what's going on? And he starts telling us, he again woke up, he could see everything, but couldn't move. He sees a shadow person slowly coming out of my mom's room, down the hallway, and start to slowly walk towards our room. And usually it never passed our door. But this time, it started slowly coming towards our room and towards him. And he said that as soon it got maybe like 2 feet away from him and it felt like he was gonna try to grab him, my cat Dolce jumped on my brother's chest and started hissing at this fucking shadow figure. Hissing at the shadow figure, and the shadow figure jumped and ran back into my mom's room. And that's when my brother was able to get up and started screaming. So after this, we're freaking the fuck out. Like, we all fully believed that the house is haunted. Obviously the adults like knew what was going on, but they were trying to tell us otherwise, like, no, you guys are just like, but we knew what the fuck was up, okay? Kids are fucking smart, they know what's going on. But this is when they started taking it more seriously. My grandma started coming over and she started doing limpias, like cleanses for all of us. So she would do like the egg cleanse, she would do the cleanses where she takes like agua de ruda, Florida water, holy water, and would just use the plants to cleanse us. And we were doing that pretty often. We also all started sleeping in the living room together, so none of us slept in our room or my mom's room. My dad also bought these humongous mirrors and put them all around the house, and he told us it's because when spirits like look at themselves, it scares them and makes them leave. One of the biggest thing they told us is like, don't talk about it, and definitely do not talk about it in the house. And of course we prayed. Like, we prayed a lot when we were doing these cleanses. After all of the stuff that we were doing, things would get better for a little bit, and then the activity would start up again. My grandma would come and like cleanse us again. We kind of started getting used to it in a way. And every time my grandma would come over to cleanse us, she would use cascarillo, which is eggshell powder, which is something that I learned from her, and it's something that I use for my practice for protection. She would use cascarilla, which is like the consistency of chalk, and she would write X's all over the walls as she would like bless us, cleanse us, and then she would bless the entire house. But by the time that she would come back for another cleanse, all of those X's would be rubbed off, and all of us were really little. They were really high up, so we don't know how they were being rubbed off, but that's one thing that would happen too. So we think that things are going okay, and then these two things happen that shook us to the fucking core. This is when things start to get really fucking weird. I know it's gonna sound fucking crazy. You don't have to believe me. This is what happened. Like I said, my mom's room was the worst. This one night, my mom's sleeping in her room. She's with my dad. In the middle of the night, she starts to wake up. She hears this weird buzzing noise, and she immediately starts to feel off and starts to feel like something, it just isn't right. So she turns to look at my dad, and my dad is levitating off of the bed. Like, he is at least 2 feet off of the bed, and he is levitating. My mom, of course, starts freaking out. She starts flipping out. She's trying to scream. She's trying to like pull him, trying to get him down. So she's trying everything, and finally he takes a super deep breath and falls on the bed. So my mom's staring at him like, what the fuck was that? He's looking at her like, what the hell? Like, what happened? But he starts telling her that he couldn't breathe and he felt like something was choking him. Something had some kind of hold on him. So after that experience, we had somebody else come back to the house to like fully cleanse it, fully bless it, bless us. And we thought for sure that like things would be better after this. I had said that we had a family friend named Rebecca. Rebecca was not a good person, and she had an evil side to her. She did brujeria, she did black magic, she did a lot of harm to a lot of people, she hurt a lot of people. I think she put something on my dad, for sure. This one night, it's my mom and my dad, they're in their room, they're sleeping. It's in the middle of the night when my dad starts to hear something. He starts to hear shuffling in his room. He wakes up and immediately starts to feel like something's off, like something's wrong. He starts to feel sick. He turns around and sees this family friend on the floor, face like this. She's like on all fours with her face down, eating something. She's picking bugs, cockroaches, and sticking them in her mouth, and she's eating them. He can't see her face at this point. He's just sitting there like in awe, just staring at her. And she finally looks up and her eyes are completely black. Like completely black. She's sitting in that form, in that presence, and then as soon as like she realizes he's looking at her, in a snap of a finger stands up and looks like her normal self. And she's like, hi, do you need something? Are you okay? Starts acting like her normal self. And my dad saw this and was like freaking the fuck out, obviously. And as he kept staring at her, disappeared. So after that experience, stuff got even worse. Like with each of us, we were just all going through it. So it really broke our family apart. But we finally moved out of there. We moved into a different apartment. The haunting stopped. If you guys don't believe in this stuff, that's totally fine. You're totally valid to not believe it. But I'm letting you guys know these are my experiences and my siblings and my family's experiences. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm trying my best not to disappear. If you guys are my returning subscribers, I really appreciate you guys coming back. I've been going through like a couple things, which is like a lot of good things. Like got a promotion at work, so I've been working my ass off. I've been working my booty off. So I just haven't had a lot of time to film and to upload. So I'm really gonna try to stick with the schedule. I do have a couple updates with the paranormal. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for coming back. If you guys have seen my videos before, I hope you guys have a great day and be safe out there. Don't mess with anything you're not supposed to, and take care of yourselves. I love you guys. Bye.